recording now. Okay, so I'm giving the floor to you first, so you can tell who you are, what you do, and then we can start from there.
Sure, yeah. My name is Hani Mora. I am the creator of this new plugin called Simple Live Press, and the whole idea behind it is it automates the process of taking your recording off of Blab and putting them on your website. So that's the main focus of the plugin. But I'm into software, I'm into online marketing, and have a few other softwares. One of them is the podcasting world, is Simple Podcast Press. So my whole goal is to build automation tools and just to help people, kind of like Annie was saying, brand themselves better on their website. So having content on your website is where you want people to interact with it, to consume it. So I create software tools to help people make your life easier and also make the experience easier for people to consume content on your site and eventually opt into your email box.
Okay, yeah, and I want to add also that I'm since quite a long time, I guess, I've been using your plugin for podcasts and the Simple Podcast Player, and I'm more than happy with that. So welcome, Cheval. Cheval is joining us. We've been into several blabs together, and he's been on my blabs. So welcome back.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Hani. Thanks for having me.
Nice meeting you, Cheval.
Nice meeting you, Ani.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have any question you want us to address first, Cheval, or you wanted to share something?
No. I just wanted to say hello. I didn't want to jump in. I was going to jump in before the recording was starting, but you said sure, so I just decided to jump in. So, I guess I just want to listen to what you guys have to share here.
Okay, well, thank you. So, we'll try not to disappoint you. Let's see.
No, you guys can't. All right, I'll jump out and.
Okay. So, as I'm just looking at the audience, I have a feeling they already know me, but just, a very short intro. I'm a fiction author and I'm a podcaster. My podcast, Right to be Read, is created for writers and is all around writing, self-publishing, and book marketing. And I also, with a business partner, have a publishing service for writers at publishmybook.today. So we decided to do this blab together with Hani because actually I've been trying blab for about a little bit over a month already, and I've seen quite good results, and I was surprised because I didn't expect those results. It was just another social media platform, a new one, a hot one. Everyone is talking about that, so why not just go and try it? So that's what I did, and then when you start seeing things happening, you end up going back and trying to understand, okay, what did I do that it worked? Because, in the very beginning, I wasn't strategic at all. So I didn't do anything intentionally, but apparently some things worked. And I went back and trying to understand what exactly. And also, since I've been using it a lot, my audience who are not familiar with the Blab started actually asking me, why are you using Blab? What are the advantages and why you spend your time there while you could spend that time on something else, like, for example, creating content or, marketing your stuff and stuff like that. So I just want to talk about why should people be on Blab. I mean, I see actually, I don't know if you agree with me, Hani, but I see like two types of audience, of blabbers here. Like one is like completely casual and is here just to blab. And they even kind of pull our legs saying that, our blabs are not so serious like yours. We're not professionals. We're just having fun. It's for entertainment. We don't really care too much about, what we talk about. And we're not planning our blabs. And we just go with the flow. And there is another group of people who are actually kind of, are using this for their business, for their brand, to gain some visibility, to gain more people who will know about them and stuff like that. So So, I mean, obviously, I think me and you are from the second part. So we don't really, I mean, I haven't seen your Blab history, like in terms of what kind of recordings you have under your profile. But I mean, I don't have stuff like, just chatting or hanging around or come and join me or, stuff like that. Usually I have some topic behind that. So I guess the thing is why people should be on Blab right now is, for me, it's just, the competitive advantage, just the time wise, because people are still trying to figure this out. At some point, it will start growing. And by the time it grows and by the time your audience gets here, you will be there already, and you will be there before your competitors. So you will have gained all this time you already spent here. You already figured out what works, what doesn't, and how things are done. And by the time the others pull in, you will already have a certain audience in place, and that will create the credibility for the newcomers who will be looking for similar subjects or people in that niche. So do you agree with that? I mean, have you, as far as I know, there aren't many from your niche on Blab, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely brand new in a sense that people are still trying to figure it out. It's been around for 4 months now. 3-4 months, and it's the platform it's a great platform because it connects people. It also gets you exposed to other people's audiences, especially, for example, you and I are doing a session. People who are following me are notified. They're dropping into here, getting to know you, and people that follow you are getting to know me. So it's a great platform for getting yourself known. And it's also a great platform for creating content because it's easy. You're creating this content by talking to your audience and even interacting, because they get to ask the questions in the chat box or even hop in and talk, so that you don't have to plan necessarily all the content, but it's good to have a topic in mind. But it's a great platform to create good and interesting content. So, and like you said, we're pretty much ahead of our competitors in the sense that we're still trying to figure things out, and things are always changing. But the beauty of this is that you get to record it. So you're making a piece of content that's going to last forever. You don't have to fire up your camera or make a video and then put it on YouTube. You're basically doing that right now. You're creating the content right now. I mean, not all of it's going to be great, but you're building this library of content that you can use and put on your website, put it on YouTube, and get the word out there. So.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I would like to say that actually the thing is that you create the content once here, and then you can repurpose it for various things. So basically, I mean, we're talking together. We cover different subjects. We actually end up with some, tips and tricks, and we get feedback from the audience. So we may get some questions. By the way, feel free to leave questions on the chat and we will address them. So basically, once it's done and once you receive the recordings, you can actually create a podcast episode out of it. You can create a YouTube video out of it. You can end up writing up the blog post, which may be also the transcription of our conversation. And depending on your time, you can do loads of different, more sophisticated things. But even if you don't, and here I just want to address the saving time issue, because most of us are kind of, we've been on so many social media channels that, we end up being overwhelmed, and we sometimes don't spend this time productively and spend too much time on just, being on Facebook and Twitter and Blab and doing various of things. So we do need some things that will help us actually kind of minimize the time that we spend on routine tasks. So like, for example, as a podcaster, I have many things that I'm doing for each episode over and over again manually because I don't have a VA yet. So I'm just, those are the things that pretty much everyone can do. They're mechanical. They're not very creative and inspiring, but, they need to be done. So you get the quality you really want to have for your audience. So that is when part of it is kind of, can be solved through plugins and softwares and things that people like you are creating. And let's talk about how did you come up with this idea, and what kind of plugin did you create for people who are using Blab on regular basis?
Yeah, the idea, I got inspired. It was September 30th. It was an International Podcast Day. I've been really involved in the podcasting community for about a year now with our other software, the Simple Podcast Press. And I had the opportunity to speak at International Podcast Day, which is an event that was going on for 30 hours from country all over the world. And I got to represent Canada here at I can't remember what time it was, but I had a chance to use Blab. Everything was done on Blab. It was a live stream for 30 hours on Blab. And Blab people were awesome because they were there for technical support throughout the whole thing. But anyways, that was my first introduction to Blab, and I didn't know what I was doing. I kind of logged in. I was like, I might have done one Blab the day before just to test it out. But I'm like, wow, this is the amount of engagement, the amount of people that were there, the amount of questions. I just fell in love with the platform. And then after a day or two playing around with it, I realized that they send you a replay at the end. So they send you the audio file, video file, and some embed code, so you can, put the replay on your site. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. And then I thought, wait a second. I don't want to have to do this manually every single time I do a Blab. Have to wait for the email, copy the code, make a new post on my WordPress site, put the title, paste the code, put a little description. It's just like, I don't, it becomes tedious if you're blabbing every day or a couple of times a week. So my brain just started, I'm an engineer, and I think engineer equals lazy. So the first thing I thought is, how can I automate this step? So that's when I got excited, and I started digging into ways to do this, and that's how Simple Live Press was born. So it's meant to be a fully automated tool that will take every replay as soon as it's done. It will make the page for you, add the title for you, embed the video replay. It would actually even add some text below, and it will show you who was on the call. For example, it's going to say Annie and Hanny. Annie and Hanny were on the live call. And then it's got some other cool stuff like email. It has an email opt-in below every video. And to me, that is the single most important thing you need to have on your website. It's a chance for people, your audience, to connect with you further and get on your email list so you can have more in-depth, quote unquote, conversations with them and get to know them better and have them get to know you and like you and trust you. So having the email opt-in box is definitely one of the main features. And so the whole idea was to focus on creating content and less time on these manual, tedious tasks of adding them to your website.
Okay, yeah, I see. So basically, just a question that I kind of thought about immediately as soon as the latest update of Blab came along, which was like yesterday, I guess, or the day before. Mm-hmm. The live embed codes that they ended up, introducing, which kind of overlapped partly with your plugin. So I want to kind of, for you to explain why should one use your plugin? What are like the top added value of the plugin as opposed to the embed code you are getting from Blab from now on for the live broadcast? Yes.
So imagine this. So imagine being able to not have, I'm going to reword this properly. Imagine not having to log into your WordPress site so you can set up the full automation. So the whole point of the plugin is not to do anything fancy. Everything you can do everything manually. There's always, there's no magic in this plugin that will do something that you can't do manually. But it's meant to take that step and automate it. So you never have to go log into your WordPress site, copy this URL, paste it on your site, make a new page every time you want to go on Blab. So this plugin eliminates all the manual steps. So literally you set it up, it imports all your recordings up to now, from the beginning of time up to now, and make a new page for every recording, add the video, and add the email opt-in box automatically, add some call to action buttons below. And one cool thing I never mentioned is all the discussions that you see on one of these sites.
In the chat, yeah. It's this way.
Oh, sorry, yeah. This way. I always get it back. Will automatically show up as comments, like native comments on your WordPress site. So that's good for SEO. It's definitely good for SEO. Now, when your question was about live embeds, right? So if you want to broadcast live from your site, that is a brilliant feature. That's probably the hottest feature that Blab added, because you can be presenting live from your own space. You don't have to send people to Blab. You send people to your space, your website. So what we did was, what we're working on right now with Simple Live Press is, instead of having to go in, hit, schedule the broadcast, copy the URL, make a new page, paste it in there. We're going to set up a page that says, for example, hannymora.com/live. So that page will always, it's smart enough to know your latest upcoming live broadcast, and it's always going to show that embed code, so that you always send people to one page. You don't even need to log in to update that page. It's automatically will update. And then as soon as your recording is done, then you're going to have a full post with the recording as well, automatically imported as well.
On the website.
On the website, exactly. So you get best of both worlds. You have a dedicated page for live, always up to date, and then all your replays, as soon as they come, they'll be published to your site, and you're going to have a big library of episodes, of Blab episodes. So that's
okay. So yeah, I mean, it's just, very, very easy and fast, and kind of, it's something that you do once and you forget, but it works.
Yes.
I know many people who are quite picky. They don't even upload their Blab recordings to YouTube immediately because they want to edit it and, make it the way they want it to look and stuff like that. So they're really picky about what kind of content goes public. But on the other hand, there are many who, like even podcasters, who do a Blab and they just create the podcast out of it immediately, like without any edits at all. So if you are from those type of podcasters or content creators who are authentic and just prefer to have the source thing just the way it is, the raw material to their audience, it means that if you use this plugin, actually, I'm just trying to project it here. If you use this plugin and you can only do Blabs, and then it will automatically create your blog and your video podcast, let's say, or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's basically going to create a page on your site that has the video right on there automatically of the replay.
So basically, you won't need to do anything for your site anymore globally. You just can do your Blabs, and that's all you can do.
Exactly. You can do it from your phone. You can be on the road recording a Blab within an hour. By the time the replay is processed and the plugin does its job, it could be between 10 minutes to an hour, depending on the cycle you're on. But you can have it configured to go live, so you have content on your site without even logging in. You don't need to. I want to make sure it's clear. You don't need to. If you want
to don't need to.
add show notes and add more detail, you can have it go as a draft. It'll stay as a draft. You edit it. You add more pretty pictures, and then you can publish that as well. So it's fully
okay. So so let's say this: if you have more time to actually do extra stuff on top of what is automated, then great, you will have like more personalized and better content, in a sense that you will be upgrading it in certain way. But if you are happy enough to have just the source raw content the way it is, then you're saving loads of time, which you can later on dedicate to either more Blabs or to some other stuff, or even just as a free time to yourself. So basically, it's kind of it's very you end up actually creating content by saving time. Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. This content, the creation part is only done on Blab. What we're doing now is create. This is the content, and then having it pushed to your site, or added or published to your site. That step is handled automatically.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was kind of, I was just thinking that since Blab includes all this interaction and engagement, and it's kind of, it creates deeper relationship with your audience, which you can't really get neither with blogs nor with podcasts nor with YouTube video channel, because there is no such opportunity. Like, I'm recording my podcast, I'm recording it to a microphone by myself. Before Blab, I've never seen my listeners.
Yeah.
So now I'm having my listeners come to Blab, jump on a free seat, and we can interact and talk together. So they see me, they see my facial expressions, I see themselves, I see that finally, which is kind of very important for content creator. We are writing blogs, we are creating podcasts. Although we see the stats, but it doesn't feel real. Sometimes we just see figures and we don't realize that, those are real human beings who are breathing, thinking, and, involving with your content and emotionally touching or, resonating somehow with what you create. And here, it's the best way to actually see that all this is real and to actually create relationships with them. And when I say that Blab is very good for your business and brand creation, that's exactly what I mean, because I'm a true believer that, I'm not about SEO. I'm not about statistics. I'm not about actually how many people know me. I'm about the level of the impact I leave on those people. So basically, okay, I've been podcasting since a little bit over a year, and I had over 120,000 downloads or whatever the number is. I haven't checked for a while, but that's not important. What I remember myself is 6, because this is the most important number for myself, because 6 writers who have never been authors actually contacted me saying that they published their very first book because they listened to my podcast. So that is much more valuable for me than how many people listened to it, because you don't even know whether they just switched it on, listened for 2 minutes, realized it's crap or didn't like it and switched it off, right? Yeah. The statistics doesn't tell you anything. And with SEO, you may drive loads of traffic to your website, but are those the people you need? Maybe I will end up with 100 people from which only one person is a writer, and all my content is about and for writers. So what's the sense? Just to boost my ego? Well, okay, yeah, maybe. And here actually on Blab, things are real. You see how many people are watching, you see for how long they are watching, you see when they drop off, and when they come and jump on the seat or when they ask questions, you see actually how they react to what you are presenting, which is actually the best way. You get this interaction, you get this feedback, and you can actually, when you are doing something, you can test live straight away and find out whether it's something that people would eventually need, or it's just something you thought that they would need, but they didn't. So I think that this is very important in terms of creating a long-term thing. Long-term wise, it's much better than anything I've seen up to now.
Yes. And I like how you said you make an impact. One or two people, or the 6 people that never wrote a book and then they wrote a book because of listening to your podcast, you've made a big impact on their life. And this is what it's all about. It's good to make money and have a business, but if you're impacting people's lives, when you're a content creator, you're hoping your content makes an impact on people's lives. And this is a great way to meet these people and have real conversation with them, real customers, real clients. And there's no better way than using Blab. And this happened yesterday, actually. I was in a Blab with Troy. I think Troy's in the house. Troy from the Blab channel, theblabchannel.com. Him and I, and then we had a Blab yesterday, and then one of our customers came on, and I recognized the Twitter handle. And then I never seen his face. And then he came on to see, and we chatted, just casual. It was so nice to see the face behind.
It's very nice to see the faces, because very often, for example, very often you can't really be inspired and motivated all the time, especially if you are mostly self-motivating yourself. So it's very difficult to actually move forward and have this enthusiasm every single day when you are doing something. So of course there are some days when you have to issue an episode or you have to write a blog post and you don't really feel like that. It's raining outside, you feel sleepy, you don't want to wake up that early, and all that stuff. Just life gets on your way. And it's natural, it's normal. And then you're kind of, you're thinking like, okay, who is listening to me anyway? I can skip this one, I'll do the next one. And, I'll skip an episode. No one will notice. And then you skip it and no one actually reaches out to you saying, hey, where is your episode? I was waiting for that. And then you're thinking like, okay, no one even noticed it's not out there. So, who cares? No one is listening to me. Why should I spend so much time and effort on this if no one cares, no one needs it, etc. But when you actually see those people and when you talk to them and when they reach out and you end up kind of, realizing that no, these people needed that because, you end up realizing that, okay, they had these low days too, and they didn't feel like writing. And they heard your episode where you said that, I'm the same. I don't feel like writing every single day, but, this is what I'm doing usually to get back on the wave. And then, these people also kind of get that knowledge to push themselves and write also and get into the wave, back onto the wave. So it's always kind of, you can always kind of sabotage yourself and tell all these stories about that, no one needs your content and you're just wasting time. Or you can get on Blab, kind of, share your link of the Blab and then have some people, at least one or two people coming in and proving you wrong. And then believe me, next day you will have an episode out there or you will have a written blog post out there.
Yeah. I just can't say enough about Blab. I want to learn more about you. We've been talking maybe for a few weeks now. You've been telling me stuff that you've been doing on Blab and like, I don't know, maybe you can give us like some tips on how, like, what's working for you, what's not working for you, how are like, are you growing your email list? Are you growing your followers? Not like strategic tips, but just kind of like what's the flow of people? Like, how does it work?
Kind of,
from your experience?
I can tell what I've been doing up to now. And to be honest, I've been here for about 40 days or a little bit more, but I've been using Blab like on regular basis, maybe the last 2 weeks. In the beginning, I was there, but I just watched a few Blabs and, I wasn't spending that much time on it. So actually what I was doing, apparently you watch the Blabs that are of interest to you. Like, you're just watching and seeing the titles of the Blabs before you decide whether you want to get into the Blab and even watch or not. So basically, I was just thinking from the outside's view, like, okay, it means that the topic of the Blab is very important, right? It's just like the cover of a book. It has to be attractive so people actually get on your Blab. And that's when I realized that first of all, it has to be short, because if you have noticed, when you tell the little word and when you're tweeting out the subject of your Blab, it actually takes out, it actually uses some of the characters already by putting the date and the time, and it says subscribe and stuff like that. So you end up, if you have a longer headline, it will cut off when you're tweeting it off. So, you will be on the safer side if you are around plus minus a little bit of 60 characters, including spaces. Then you will have the whole thing out, which is very good, because when you tweet it out and it's cut off, people won't even understand what it is about. Right. So they might not even click the link. So the other thing is, you have to look at the topics like headlines, like, the blog post headlines, or, the things that are catchy, that say what it is about, and that makes people attracted to it, so they want to click. The topic purpose is, besides telling what it will be about, but also to get the click, so people get into your Blab and subscribe to it, or get into the Blab to watch. So that's the other thing. And the third thing that I kind of realized is, okay, what do people do? They tell a little bird, which means it's linked to Twitter, which means that you can actually use the power of Twitter hashtags, right?
Right.
So basically what you do is you can actually come up with a headline, which is short, which can be shown the whole thing, which is an attractive one. So people are curious or intrigued or want to see it. Plus you make sure that inside that short headline, you have a keyword or a hashtag, which is popular enough in your specific niche. So like that, I mean, people, even the Twitter users who don't follow you, they will be following the hashtag. So you will reach actually people who are not even following you on Twitter.
Right.
And there are two websites that I'm using usually to research and investigate and see what are the hashtags in my niche which are popular, because it shows like, you know, their popularity stuff and stuff like that. So one is hashtagify.com, and I'll put the links in the chat later. And the other one is RightTag. And I think the founder of RightTag is very heavy Blab user. I've seen him quite a lot on Blab recently. And later on, I found out that he's the founder of RightTag. So basically, I'm using those two websites to come up with the most effective and popular hashtags related to my niche. So I even have a PDF, created a PDF for writers with just, 100 plus most popular hashtags for writers. And that's what I'm kind of using while doing the head. And you can research for your own niche and come up with your own list. So it's basically, those three things that I'm using when I'm thinking about actually kind of, creating a topic on the Blab. And I think it kind of works because, first of all, you attract the audience inside the Blab, plus you are using the Twitter to attract the audience of the Twitter. And then, of course, all the other social media, like, I'm okay with Facebook, so I also use my Facebook page, Facebook group, and Facebook profile to actually, promote my scheduled Blab. And that's the first thing I noticed and I do. The second thing is actually, you watch, I have noticed that there aren't many people who are blabbing around the subjects that I am about, like, writing, self-publishing, book marketing, and stuff like that. So whenever something like that comes up, like someone schedules a blab around those topics, I'm like periodically searching in Blab to see what's going on. And when I'm finding a blab that is around my topic, even if I have missed it and it's on recording, I watch the recording and I'm trying to see who were active in the chat. And I'm following those people because those are potential people who are potentially interested in those topics. So if I create something, they might most probably show up. So if I follow them, they, seeing that I'm a writer too, they might follow me back, and later on, if I create something around that topic, they might come and show up on my Blab. And if it's not started yet, if the Blab hasn't started yet, then I'm going and seeing who subscribed to that Blab, which also gives me an idea who are interested. And of course, if, I can catch the time and it's okay and suitable, then I definitely go ahead and try to not only watch the Blab, but also jump on the seat, because I will be visible exactly to my target audience later on. So they will see me too. So those are like, the basic things. It sounds simple. It's not complicated. It doesn't require extra time on Blab, because like this, you will be spending time on Blabs that are of interest to you specifically and to your business. So you don't really have to go to every single Blab and talk about things that have nothing to do with what you are doing. But at the same time, you will end up meeting the right people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Those are awesome tips. So basically, you're doing your research through hashtags, and then you're also doing your research to see what other people are doing on Blab, and starting to follow some key people who are engaged, who are either presenting or even asking the questions in the discussion. You kind of getting your name out there by following people and following the right people, the right targeted people. That's smart. Smart. So you're doing your research on Blab. Okay. So what happens after? I'm going to keep asking since this is. You can feel free to stop anytime, but since we're talking about this, so you're building up your following. Then what?
You're building up your following, and then you have to be consistent in terms of the message of who you are and what your brand is about. So you can blab about different things, but you should usually leave the same vibe, like, who you are, what you are about. So people are not confused. So if you are on someone else's blab and you introduce yourself, you say who you are, what you're doing, but then later on, if you go to someone else's blab and you say a completely different thing, people will start confusing. Okay, was she a podcaster, or was she a writer, or what did she do? So you have to end up coming up with your own story and your own mission or your own brand's image, and make sure that those values which you are about, actually whatever you do in terms of content, in terms of how you behave and what type of person you are, is in line with all that stuff. So basically, my main story is I am helping writers share their stories with the world and become authors. So that's everything I'm doing. There are different things. There are basically, self-publishing services. There is a podcast. There is me being a writer as part of their community because I write also. But it's all about the same thing. It's all about and for writers. So in that respect, I'm always about some. But of course, if there is a blab about podcasting, I, with very great interest, I get into there and I listen and I participate because I'm also a podcaster and there are things that I'm interested in because I also want my podcast to grow. So the main idea is that when people see you in terms of brand, and I think that, if you are a solopreneur, you're your own brand. And when I say you, I don't mean what you do, but also who you are. And I think on Blab, it's very important that you are authentic and you are yourself. So, I don't really specifically dress up for my Blabs. I don't try to look prettier, or I don't try to pretend I'm someone else. And, I feel very comfortable while I'm doing a Q&A on Blab. When people ask me something I don't know, I just say, okay, I don't know. I don't try to kind of, look smarter and seem better than I am, because it's okay. No one knows everything, right? So it's kind of, I position myself not like the expert or the guru or, all those, fancy words people are using kind of to make sure that they get this authority. I'd rather position myself as someone who has passed some journey which others are passing now, and I can help them out because I know the way. Exactly. And at the same time, someone who is still learning because there are loads of things I don't know yet. And, if you are asking me something, I may say I don't know, but at the same time I say, but I've interviewed over 100 writers, and I may go back to them and try to find out and get back to you. So it's basically, I'm not the person who stands higher and teaches and preaches people. I'm just one of you who maybe in some respect have a little bit more resources in terms of connections and relationships, and I can use them to help you better. So that's what I'm about, basically. So I think if you want to position yourself, there are loads of coaches out there, for example, in Blab, doing showcasing their stuff, doing live coaching sessions to show that they're good, right? Eventually they do this not because they don't have anything else to do, but they do this to show that they are good, so potential, clients come to them later on and choose them among the others. So in that case, all of them are coaches, right? All of them do more or less the same thing and provide the same service. In that case, what you have to do is you have to understand for yourself, what is your differentiator? Why should people choose you from all the other 10 coaches who are doing the same Blabs and providing the same service? What is it that, is different? And then if you find this differentiating point and angle, then press on that. In your message, in your content, whatever you're doing, make sure people notice that and make sure people kind of get this image of the thing in themselves. So they know that there are many coaches, but this one is different because, and then you just make sure you put the image of what the because is.
Yeah.
So like, for example, I mean, on Blab, there aren't many people who are working with authors, but I mean, in podcasting, there are. And, you know, there are many blogs for writers and stuff like that. So basically, what I noticed was that most of them either provided information, just like dryish information, like about self-publishing and marketing and how to do things and technical stuff. The others were providing purely emotional support and encouragement and mindset stuff and things like that. So what I tried to do, like, you know, I decided that, okay, I'm going to provide both, but the information I'm providing should be emotionally compelling. And the emotional support I'm providing should have at least one tip in my solo episodes for the podcast. So I'm like combining the both, but I'm differentiating from both because I'm putting some kind of accent on that. And of course, my accent is kind of the differentiator.
Yeah, that's good.
As well.
That's a good point. I like what you said about being yourself, especially on Blab, because it's hard, you know, it might be easy to fake it or hide behind the microphone. But when you're on Blab, you can't. It's a lot harder to fake it on video. So it's faking it being something you're not is not. It's never a good idea. You can't.
I mean, in 10, 15 minutes, people will see it. It's kind of, you know, it's not. And then, you know, Blab will not be fun for you if you are playing a role. For example, I mean, I can't talk like this forever and have fun if I have to be tense and remember that, you know, I'm playing a role and this is the role and this is how I am supposed to behave. Because, I mean, it will be yet another job. I'd better go to somewhere in an office and work and get a stable salary if I'm doing a job here too anyway. So I think we have some questions here, so we better kind of start addressing the audience. So the first question is from Shival. It's to you. What was the process of creating Simple Life Press?
That's a great question. Basically, the idea came, I think, I mentioned earlier, during one of my first or second blabs, and then it took me about a couple of days to figure out how to, you know, the technical stuff behind it, how to get the stuff, how do I get this information so I can automate this process? Once that got figured out, it's relatively easy in a sense, because I've already have two other softwares that have very similar architecture in a sense. I already have this building block where I can, for my other products. So I just took what I have, kind of ripped out what doesn't apply to here, and then plugged in the new stuff. So it was really fun to create something quickly. That was my goal. I wanted to get it out quickly. I think from that time the idea came to the day I launched it, I think it was less than 2 weeks. I wanted to get it out there and just start getting people aware of it. So to me, getting your idea out there, whether it's a software or a product, get it out there, get it in front of people's eyes, get some feedback on it, good or bad, just, you know, see what the reaction is, and then continue building it, or continue expanding and growing it. So that's kind of one of the tips I tell people is just don't spend months trying to build a course or build a product or build a software or build membership site without knowing you have the right audience, or without knowing that this is what people want, or people are willing to pay for this. So you want to do a little bit of validation, a little bit of testing up front, get people to actually get you motivated to build it, to finish building it, but also get people aware of it early on. So yeah, that's kind of one of my tips over the years. I'm a kind of a perfectionist. I was always, you know, especially with software, it's got to be all working perfectly. But you know, it will get there. But you know, build something quick that works, basic functionality. Not basically, the core functionality. Don't add all these bells and whistles yet. Build the core function. The real heart of it all, to me, was, in this case, the automation piece. Build that piece, and then make it all fancier and build the email opt-in boxes and expand. And so definitely that's kind of my tip I want to share with anybody here who's creating any kind of content or course or anything. Imperfect action. Yes, I like that. Imperfect action. That's it. As long as you're taking action and you're taking a step forward, you can always correct. Take one step forward, steer a little bit, correct, take another step forward. But if you're standing still, you're trying to figure out, what the next step is. You're not going anywhere. You're stuck.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think I saw one more question.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions. Somebody was asking you and I
about... thanks for the compliments, guys. It's kind of... you make me blush.
And then someone's asking you and I about finding your guests.
How do you find your guests for your podcast using Blab? I mean, using Blab should be the key because, there are other ways I'm using, other things I'm using to get guests on. So for the Blab, I truly believe I'm usually a little bit skeptical about things. So, if someone has a famous name, it doesn't mean that I would definitely want to interview him or her, to be honest, because I want to make sure that my listeners get value. And, just famous name does not specifically mean that that's the case. So what I'm doing is I'm usually, when I'm watching blabs, especially the blabs which are related to my topics, I'm watching the guests and the people who jump in, and I'm just... I'm seeing what they are about and, what they talk and, whether they really know their subject or they're really interesting personalities. And if I see that and I have this thoughts like, he should suit my podcast, I would love to interview him. Then, of course, I just reach out. Of course, there is no direct messaging way in Blab yet. So I'm using the Twitter DM. So I follow them, they follow me back, I DM them, or in the chat. I very often, I know it's distractive and maybe that's not the best way to do this. So I'm not sure I should tell you to do that too. But even if someone is being interviewed and he's a really nice guest and I want him on the show, I just write it in the chat, which is distractive a bit because, sometimes they forget what they were talking about. It's kind of... But that's what I do. I just, out of the blue, I just write them a chat message if I'm not sure that I may be followed back on Twitter. If no, I use Twitter DM and I'm just, getting. But for me, it's kind of, in the beginning, I was a little bit afraid and ashamed to reach out to guests just out of nowhere because in the very beginning, I'm the only podcaster in Armenia. So, no one actually. And when I just started, I didn't have audience at all, like zero. I was starting from scratch. And I was just wondering like, okay, if I write someone who doesn't know me and most of them didn't know me, like, why the hell they should say yes? And very often I wasn't even reaching out to them. And then at some point I was like, what the hell? They will either say no or won't reply. And that's where I am here already. So I just started kind of reaching out to people I thought I would love to interview. And then I ended up having, slightly, people with bigger audiences. And then once you end up having 2 or 3 big names, and as I say, big names, as I already mentioned, big names who also can provide value. Then, everyone is looking at your backlist and they see like, oh, she interviewed Chris Brogan. Oh, she had a talk with James Altucher. And, many eventually say yes because they see these big names and they feel kind of pretty, happy to be alongside with them, to be honest. So eventually you reach the point when people start reaching out to you asking to be interviewed rather than you chasing them up. But of course, I permanently monitor. I watch blabs. As soon as I like someone and he's relevant to my audience, I just reach out with, I don't think you should actually wait until you have your own audience or you are famous too before you reach out to your guests. What about you, Hani? What are you doing?
I don't have a podcast, so I can't really relate to that. So, but as a person who's been on podcasts quite a bit in the past year. To be honest, a lot of people won't say no. There's a chance to meet somebody, meet a different audience. So like Annie said, it doesn't hurt to ask. And there's a good chance that they'll say yes. So, but I guess the hardest part is getting in contact with them, right? Finding them, finding their email, reaching them on Twitter or Facebook. So that's I think getting them to say yes is depending who they are. Trying to get Pat Flynn on an interview, that might take some time. But if you're trying to get someone in your niche that's well known in your niche, and it's most likely to say yes because they have the right audience.
Well, I was lucky to know Pat Flynn before I launched my podcast, so it was relatively easy to get him on my podcast.
That's awesome. Okay, that was a bad example,
but actually, that example I can elaborate on that, and you can see that it all comes back to who you are and how you approach people. Because the way I know Pat Flynn is he actually created Facebook group, which is Pat's first Kindle book. That's how it's called. And he created this when he was starting writing his very first book. And he eventually opened this up in order to get advice from people who have already done that, in order to kind of share his experience and his kind of progress and stuff like that. So I was on that group, and we shared lots of knowledge, and we helped each other and stuff like that. So he noticed the ones who were most active and who were providing most value, and who actually wrote me asking to become one of the admins of that group. So we were kind of, administering the group, helping him out, keeping it spam free, and and keeping it active and stuff like that. So of course, by the time I actually ended up kind of, creating this podcast and asking him as a guest, I mean, I doubt he would have said no. You see what I mean? It's just, you do things without actually realizing that you're doing this in order to get something else in return later on. But it works. I mean, eventually, it pays back.
Yeah. I'm just reading some of the comments here.
I love when they're flowing. It's kind of
it's hard to keep
means
up.
two things. It means two things. Either the blab goes really well, or it's very boring, and they end up chatting to each other.
Talking amongst themselves, yeah. Yeah, no, I was just reading about Stan's asking, if you won't mind, I want Hanny, Jez, Cheval, Troy to visit and talk on our morning blab about using blab. So,
okay,
up for
here we go.
Hanny's up for it too. I'm sure Troy is.
Oh, yeah?
Chuck's saying you're doing a great job on Blab, creating an audience and introducing a great product. Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, I figured for me in my case, because my product is for Blab users, I went where my audience would be, right? So I wanted to be present and get to connect with people on Blab. So definitely with the Simple Live Press, I'm hanging around Blab a lot, obviously for obvious reasons, to get people to be aware of this product. So it's always good to hang out where your audience is hanging out. So if your audience is on Facebook, hang out there, spend time there, interact there, give value there. Don't go in there and say, hey, buy my stuff. Get in there, give value, get involved in the community, but make sure you go. The key is to go where they are. Just because you're not on Facebook doesn't mean that they're not on Facebook. So try to find out where where their Facebook groups are, or where, in this case, Blab, because my product is about Blab. And so get to know that community, give value to that community, so to kind of research guests and also research potential leads for your business.
Yeah. Although on the other hand, I mean, for example, as I mentioned, like my niche and my audience is not here yet. I mean, not many, let's say, not enough. So you justify spending so much time on Blab, to be honest. But on the other hand, I know they will be coming. So I'm kind of preparing for that in advance. And I know that most of my podcast listeners most probably don't know about Blab yet. So I'm just trying to kind of, get them into here as well by saying that, later on, I mean, we get this opportunity of seeing each other, interacting with each other, and I'm recording these days some of my podcast episodes on Blab. Not all of them, but some of them.
That's cool.
But I don't include the later on Q&A session and the follow-up things we're talking. So on the podcast, it's only the interview. But in my blog post where I'm kind of putting the interview, I'm also like showing the Blab video, saying that there is extra bonus content on there on top of what you heard. So they could go ahead and watch the Blab video as well. Yeah. And then that's where the listeners are participating, because on the Q&A session, they jump on the seats and they see each other. So it's kind of, I'm trying to create this extra added value content, which is just specifically Blab related. So they start getting introduced to Blab, they start getting used to it, and eventually using it later on daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, people are, at least people that I know, Blab is very new, right? So, but you're getting on here, the beauty of Blab is you don't even need to know what Blab is. You can send your audience to click on a link and come join you. That's the beauty of it. You don't need to install any software, Skype, iTunes. No, you don't need to complicate it. You can get anybody off the street, and for anybody who's very limited resources in terms of like computers or software, can just get a link, click on it, and assuming they have a Twitter account, and then they're on Blab and they can join you. So that's another great thing about this platform, is that you're here and anybody can join you.
Oh, yeah. And right now, I know we spoke about this, but I never spoke about this on Blab before. So I'm just, I was bold enough to start creating an online course about how to use Blab and how to link it to your business strategy and brand creation. So basically, it's not launched yet. It will launch in November 1st, but I'm having like limited time special offer with loads of bonuses and super discounted price for that. I'll just leave the link for... Oops. Okay, what happened? Am I still... Can you hear me and see me, or it's my internet? Okay, it's my internet connection. Oh, you can. You can. Okay. Okay. So, Honey, what happened to Honey? Where are you, Honey? You left me there. Okay. Dennis said he bought that special offer. So, Honey's coming. I'll just leave the URL. What happened to you, Honey?
I was actually curious about Mark's link. Mark left a link about Blab Connect Sheet, and I clicked it. And for some
directly
reason,
went to that.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it would open a new tab. So I apologize.
Today, Blab is completely. It's
no worries, Mark. It's not your fault. It's all good.
It's Blab. It's messed up today somehow. We had some issues this afternoon, which is I don't know what. Okay, guys, do you have any questions, or maybe someone would like to jump on the seat and we can have like instead of 1-on-1, like 1-on-3 or 4, or I don't know. Anyone feels like jumping in? I had this very strange Blab yesterday where people didn't jump in because they were not dressed.
Oh.
So some of them were even naked because they were on their way to shower. So, okay, Dennis is dressed. That's a good sign. Hi.
Oh.
Oops. What happened? Okay, yeah, Blab starts acting weird today. Okay, he's coming again. Let's see.
Sorry about that.
Hey there.
I was on my camera over there. I wanted my camera.
Ah, okay.
Can you hear me okay?
How are you, Dennis? Yeah, how are you, Dennis?
Good. Just working away. Just watching you guys provide value for everybody. I love it.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I've been looking for simple WordPress, but I'm not a WordPress guy, so it doesn't work for me.
Exactly. Yeah, it's only WordPress.
I'm one of those guys that actually write code.
I I knew you'd like it, Dennis. So that's why I told you to come and watch it.
Oh,
I knew you would like it. That's why I invited you in here.
Watching your podcast and your Blab event. This is awesome. Well, yeah, I bought the course. I can't wait to get it. Is it going to be here?
Yeah.
Is it coming?
I'm working on it. It's coming. I'm working on it every day.
We're going to have some Armenian people carry it to our house or what?
Yeah, well, actually, the thing is, why I decided to pre-sell it with this special offer and stuff like that is because I'm not very good at self-discipline. So I realized that if people buy it in advance, then I will just have no other way but to complete it on time and make sure it's good enough. So that's why I'm kind of, it's like my, I know many people who are paying coaches to kick their asses to make sure they make things done. This was my like individual kind of, customized way of doing that for myself.
All right. So I never used these kind of microphones before. Is this going to work? And testing one too? I'm not sure which one's working, but I usually use my headphones. So the course is coming out pretty soon. Again, I've listened to your podcast. It's awesome. And the content you guys had today, I wanted to just jump on and say you guys were rocking it totally. So both of you are totally rocking it. So.
Yeah.
Thank you. You should let us know when you are doing your blabs so we can jump in.
So close. I'm doing my ClickFunnels right now, which I've been doing for 3 weeks, just building out funnels for my platform I have, the new platform I have coming out. So you both can feel my pain doing that. So yeah, I've been working on that. I'm losing my mind, but I'm getting closer. So I'm doing my final emails right now and going through them and make sure everything's working. So I'm excited to be one of those online marketers. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your experience with ClickFunnels? I keep hearing good things about it. I haven't had a chance to play with it.
It's okay. I don't know. I've run into a lot of glitches, and technical support doesn't get back to you until 24 hours later, so I'm kind of new to that.
Okay.
You don't really, you just kind of always run into a little. It's like there's some things you should explain like up front. Like, okay, you've got to do this. First off, don't even look at the software until you know you have this set up, this set up, this set up, or to make things easier. Like setting up your email and stuff like that. I didn't.
I'll stop the recording to tell you something about ClickFunnels.